This week, State Auditor Tim Keller released an audit and report about a contract between the City of Albuquerque and Taser International. The audit concluded that former Police Chief Ray Schultz helped rig a $2 million no-bid contract with Taser full lapel cameras for APD officers, and Mr. Schultz went on to become a consultant for the company at the cool rate of $1,000 a day. We're going to talk about that. The State Attorney General Hector Balderas says his office is looking into the issue, and the city denies the allegations that the procurement process was rigged. Now, every week we invite community members with different political perspectives and backgrounds to join us to talk about issues in the news. Now, we're ready for this one, and today I'm joined at the table by Merritt Allen, Principal and Executive Director of Vox Optima LLC. Eric Riego is back. He's a former New Mexico State Senator, along with lots of other things he's doing in his life now. Phil Marquez, radio veteran from Talk Radio Inc., and Sophie Martin, our old friend from DukeCityFix.com, and Sophie is also an attorney here in Albuquerque. And Sophie, let me start with you with Mr. Schultz. Ex-Chief Schultz, not the only employee mentioned in, actually let me back up. We've got the State Auditor report. We've got a report inside APD. We
also have, that's right, an internal APD report.
Please talk about that, the internal report. I found that a little more interesting.
I thought the internal report released this week was also very interesting. It's not, I don't think, getting quite as much news as Tim Keller's report did, but what it points to is it looks like a systematic pattern on the part of Taser and also APD officials and staff members of what looks like perhaps quid pro quo. I mean, Taser is paying for lunches. They're giving funds to the APD ski team. They're certainly putting funds out there, and then we see, and the APD report and the auditor's report both indicate this, then we see this lack of rigor in evaluating the Taser bid for the contract to provide lapel cameras. Pardon me. I think it raises some important questions. One is, what other types of procurement are being handled the same way or have been handled the same way? And you know, there have been some big purchases, for instance, of rifles, things like that, that have come through. And so that really raises this question about, is this a culture of pay to play within APD, or is this a one-off? Now, what I think is interesting, you started to mention that Chief Schultz is implicated in this, and then other employees, but actually the internal audit does not reveal names, and so that report suggests that there are many more people involved, but doesn't name them.
Sure. I got to turn to you, Merritt Allen, on this. But you're no stranger to contracting. You know how this works. You've been doing this in your career for your business for a long time now. It just seems, reading over the report Sophie's mentioning, things seemed awfully loose. Like there was a sense of a grab. Meaning, how does one touch up a company that's supposed to be supplying you things to keep the public safe for $1,500 for the ski team? How does that ask even happen credibly? Do you know what I mean? It's a difficulty.
What I found fascinating reading Auditor Keller's report is it looks to me like a company that knows the system and they know the ordinances, and so they've managed it. Because the one thing that has not come out, the smoking gun, would be if Schultz had gone back and sold Taser to APD within a year of him retiring. And so far we don't see that that's happened, and Taser knows that, they're aware of that. What I would think, though, is a company of that size would understand that there are caps on gifts and meals out at every level. So I don't quite understand that, and what I think could help prevent this in the future with the facilities we've got. I don't know that Schultz was looking. He wanted to get a good job when he got out, so he consulting for Taser. Okay, Taser's the only manufacturer, and they're going direct from Taser instead of a third party. That might be a better deal for Albuquerque. But if there is a process in place where certain high-level, cabinet-level employees, before they accepted their first job outside of retirement or leaving public service, went through some sort of legal and ethical review, that would put people on notice, and it would bring things like this to light sooner than 2015 for stuff that happened in 2013.
Seriously, Phil, good to see you again. By the way, we've got reports now of Sophie mentioned the AK-47s that were procured, and there's a little squirrely business with that. It seems like there were other people making procurement decisions that did not have the right to do it inside the organization. Like, who's running the shop down there? Did you have that same sense as you were reading?
It's like it just went whichever way, whatever way you wanted to go. This is Tasergate. Reality. Something smells. And it doesn't pulled together when you have an ethics situation. Is it ethical or is it unethical? I think there's a state laws that pretty much tell you how the procurement's supposed to work, and I don't think they followed that.
That's right.
And I guess the question is, for Schultz, is that why was he involved in this?
At all.
That's really the big question that I keep putting in my mind when I was reading that. Why are you even involved? It's one of those things that if you know the rules and the law, you would immediately back away from, say, look, I'm not getting involved in this. This is something I don't want to be part of, but here's the company. You go talk to so-and-so and let's see where it goes.
That's right.
Then there were some other procurements, like you said, that didn't even follow the process. Yep. So it's going to be something that's going to be definitely looking at taking it to the judiciary, different things there.
Sure.
So this could get real nasty.
Speaking of that, Eric Rigo, what Phil just mentioned, in your gut, is there enough here that you would sense that Chief Schultz is in a bit of trouble here, that something is not quite right? I don't know what that trouble is or what the restitution would be for that trouble. I have no idea, but something doesn't seem quite right here.
Well, I think the important question is who's sort of overseeing this. You know, we're lucky that we have a state auditor who's really taking this seriously, but 10 years ago we passed an Inspector General's department in the city of Albuquerque for this very reason. There were procurement irregularities, there was the ABQ PAC scandal. Right. We had just passed a tax, ironically, that's funding these very tasers. The voters decided to pass a public safety tax, almost all of which was going for equipment for APD. That's right. And part of the deal was we promised that we would be doing a better job of keeping an eye on everyone. Now, APD wanted to have a little carve out, so the Police Oversight Commission, ironically, was carved out of that statute, that ordinance. So fast forward 10 years, it's been systematically reorganized, defunded, and otherwise sort of made pretty much meaningless. There's a city auditor, but the city IG doesn't have any real subpoena authority, doesn't have the, so if that office was as empowered as Tim Keller's office was, we would have caught this. There would be real consequences. The question that you just asked about what should be the sanctions, would they be working with the district attorney and the attorney general to really remediate this? But that whole process doesn't exist. And if not for Tim Keller, a new, aggressive, smart auditor going after this, this would probably be swept under the rug like so many other issues in local government.
Interesting. Sophie, I'll jump to another one here real quick. We had another issue with APD this week. Of many issues that military-style training on base, something Michelle Lujan Grisham had some heartburn with here in this studio a couple of months ago.
I'll tell you when Representative Lujan Grisham first brought the issue to the public's attention. It's essentially saying, APD officers were seeing this tremendous problem with use of force, violent force. APD officers, many of them are being trained alongside Department of Energy, meaning nuclear, alongside Department of Energy security forces, and there she was highlighting the possibility that there was crossover in the training such that that was starting to change the culture at APD toward more of a SWAT-style culture. At first I was like, oh really, I'm not sure, I sort of believe that, and now I am more concerned because it has moved forward. The Department of Justice is taking a look at that, and when we look at what has happened in our police force, but also police forces around the country, it seems to me that there has been this tremendous move toward military-style policing. And this is another place here locally where we might be able to address that.
And this is part of the president's talk that followed up Ferguson and stuff like that to take a look at these kind of things, Merritt Allen. The idea that there's some quotes from some folks that did train at that facility, and they said, look, it's a whole different deal what they train with there than out in the streets of Albuquerque. It's just a vastly different circumstance. How did it hit you on a gut level? Does it make sense where the representative is coming from here?
Well, I absolutely think this discussion has gone the right places. It's been addressed with DOE, and DOE said, let's, DOJ, you tell us what you think. The militarization of police is not unique to Albuquerque, and I think it's a huge concern. And I think it's something that we've got to address at the local, state, federal level. That said, let's also be real straight. Nukes are serious business, and that's our highest priority security-wise. The government is incredibly serious about this, and when it comes to what we have here in Albuquerque, we want DOE and APD to have that interagency agreement. That's really key. And I think what has happened is in these interagency agreements, they've developed a relationship over years, and I don't think there's any effort, I don't think this is a federal effort to militarize the APD. I just think as they've worked side by side, when I was a 17-year-old midshipman, Navy, I got to shoot a Marine Corps grenade launcher. It was the coolest thing I ever did. Had nothing to do with my career as a Navy public affairs officer.
Right.
But when you meet other government agencies, this is how, and particularly military law enforcement, they familiarize you to the culture, and this is what we do. So I don't necessarily think that this was an overt effort and we're trying to militarize the police. I just think they've been working together too long. So I think the DOJ look at that and what the appropriate engagement with for APD and DOE as they continue to look after our overall security is
Sure. Does
important.
that make sense to you, Phil Marquez?
I have absolutely no use for military combining with the police. And I don't think it's just an Albuquerque problem. I think this is whole mentality coming from the government, from the federal government, down to the state and city and local levels has permeated for the last 10 years.
Right.
When we have tanks running down the streets, and you've got paramilitary, and you've got people that look like they just jumped out of a plane to attack in a foreign country, we got a problem. Yeah. And this not only is fearful to me, it also falls into the guidelines of our Constitution. Do we really want to go there? Do we really want to have our police department look like military? Do we want them combining together as military, working? Do we want a federal police? You think we have civil rights violations now? Imagine if you combine that or it becomes a federal issue. This is one topic that'll get me absolutely steamed. And I do not like the military involved with local police at all.
There you go. Up next, why one Albuquerque neighborhood is trying to keep the city's trash out of their area.